to call this February 4th meeting of the City-County Liaison Committee to order. First item, disclosures and recusals. Anything to inquire from city staff? Seeing none. Next item is election of a city co-chair. Actually, I do want to officially welcome Keith Berman to the committee. So, and I think you've introduced yourself to the county staff. You know everybody else around the table? Oh. All right, okay, so you're officially welcome.
Thank you.
And with that, we can move to the election of the city co-chair. Are there any nominations?
It's usually one of the elected officials, isn't it?
I think so, that's, yeah. Yeah, this is my 5th year on the committee, and that's what it's always been. So I guess you can, Jeff can be the secretary.
Yeah. Two of us here. Sangha, would you like to do it?
I can do it. It is okay with everybody.
Okay, you take it as a, you want to do something?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Are there any other nominations? Are there any nominations? Are there any nominations? With that, I guess we can vote to cast unanimous ballot for Samba Balda as city co-chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Congratulations. All right, and now, I guess we have no fund transfers, referral items requiring committee action.
To these minutes.
Wait, that's right, I'm sorry, thank you, yeah. Consideration of minutes from the September 26, 2018 meeting.
Approval.
I'll second.
Schauer, seconded by Costellic. Are there any additions or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, and the minutes are approved. So now we can go to items requiring committee action, 2017 Act 593. Is there a motion? Second?
Second.
Moved by Balda, second by Schauer. Discussion. You want to start?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity again to seek your approval for a dog-friendly policy for the city-county building. At the request of the mayor, I am here to talk about, or to encourage you to adopt this policy. Last year, we conducted a survey of city employees who responded, and it was 54% supported a dog-friendly policy where feasible, and 10% were indifferent, and 35% did not support the proposal for various reasons. And so we are proposing this policy. We think that, well, it's obvious that dogs are part of our life every day. They're on planes, they're in banks, they're in stores. I was just talking about the emergency out of my apartment building. My apartment complex accommodates dogs. There is what should I say, a device out on the grounds that dispenses plastic bags, and then you can put the dog food. In the heated garage, there is a dog wash. So they accommodate dogs in this complex, and they're, again, as I said, they're accommodated on planes, they're accommodated in stores and everywhere we go. And we ride elevators with them, we manage to deal with them if we have phobias or allergic reactions. The concerns of any employees, be there for health reasons or for fears or whatever, will be addressed, and that if there are concerns within this particular office or facility, they will not be allowed to have a dog there. So our priority is the health and welfare of our employees, as well as the facility has to be safe for a dog. You can't have it in streets or fire stations or trucks or anything like that. And a couple of points I wanted to make is that bringing a pet into the workplace is a privilege with responsibility and not a right. So no one has a right to do this. Dog owners will be 100% responsible and 100% of the time for their pets. Dog owners must monitor their pets at all times. The policy contains written expectations for the dog's behavior. It contains written expectations for the owner's behavior. As I said earlier, if one person has a phobia or allergy, that must be considered and addressed by the department head. There will be designated no dog zones, for example, a cafeteria or areas where employees are allergic or fear dogs. We will have enforcement of a 3-strike rule for violations of our policies, and as I said earlier, the work environment must be accommodating to dogs. So we feel that this is a policy that we can safely adopt for the CCB, and that this committee has the authority to adopt that policy. If down the road we find that there are issues or concerns that we raise, we could always rescind the policy. But I think it's worth trying because it does a lot of positive in the workplace by invoking camaraderie among employees. Employees seem to be more relaxed and work better in environments where dogs are present. So most of you have heard this spiel before, so I'm not going to belabor it, but to ask, I'll open myself up for any questions that you may have.
Well, any questions or?
I don't have questions, I just have comments, so I'll wait till people ask
But I have questions.
Okay, go ahead.
What is the reporting process gonna look like? So
The what process?
The reporting. So say for example, if somebody's bringing a dog that is making a lot of noise or whatever, and I'm just not happy about it, how do I report that, and how confidential will that be so that my co-worker is not angry at me for calling him or her on?
We're setting that up in administrative procedure memorandum, and Marcy Paulson from the City Attorney's Office is here. And I don't know if you've gotten to that section of how people will report violations of the policy just yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're working on it right now. They would report it to the department head, and everyone within the departments, how we're drafting it, everyone within the department would be asked, okay, person X wants to bring in a dog, and everyone within the department would have to agree. If anyone says, no, we don't want a dog, as Enos had said, because we have an allergies, because we have a fear, then that would end the conversation there. If there's a complaint made, they can remain anonymous, and then the department head would take that. I think we've decided public health would get involved and look at what has happened, because they have the animal control officers, depending on what occurs with the animal. And depending on the severity, the animal may have to leave at that point and not be allowed back. It just depends on what the issues would be with the specific dog.
Owners would have to be insured
Mm-hmm.
as well, cover any liabilities.
Yeah, Eric VM has come up with some of the policy and the forms too that people have to apply, our risk manager, to ensure that there would be coverage.
So will that process also come back to this committee to have a look at, or once we vote and say yes on this today, you go to the policy and then we are completely?
I can bring it back if you would like, but I'm seeking approval. It's difficult getting the quorum for this committee for a little bit, so and it's one of the things that I'd like to accomplish before I'm out of here in April. So if the committee would like to see the policy, but we're going to ensure these are administrative procedure memorandum that rules that all city employees have to abide by, and so they're adopted by the mayor. And we're going to make sure that the health and welfare of our employees and the safety of the animal is addressed in that 8 p.m.
Supervisor Sean?
Fair to say that if something in one of those APMs isn't up to, if they were to draft something that would be questionable, they would be able to take that back to this committee, and then we could suggest something back to the mayor to say, this policy, implementing the policy is problematic in the following ways. We suggest to change this and that. We're never completely out of the conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because you govern this building and what goes on in this building as far as policy.
With that understanding, I don't have any problem with this, I don't think, unless somebody else. Go ahead, please.
So I have a bunch of concerns with this. I think 35% is still a large amount of people that don't support this. You give examples such as banks and airplanes. Those are come and go type situations. Even on airplanes, there are pretty strict rules. I I think culturally, culturally, if you're the one guy in the office that doesn't like dogs and you vote against dogs being in the department, I think that puts you in a weird position in your office, with your coworkers. Even worse, say the whole department wants dogs, and then a new member comes in that's allergic to dogs. So let's say we have anonymous, you won't know who the person. A new member comes into the department, I'm allergic to dogs, or I had a bad incident with dogs, I'm uncomfortable having dogs here, and I decide, this department shouldn't have dogs. You're gonna know immediately it was that new member that just came in, and that just puts them in a really awkward position. So I think when it comes to allergies, when it comes to, people being, some people are afraid of dogs, they don't like dogs, I think this just is setting up a situation that is incredibly hard to manage, and puts people at a much bigger disadvantage than an advantage to allow it to happen. I think the cons are way stronger than the pros, especially when it comes to allergies, especially when it comes to comfort. I mean, some of the stuff talks about, people are concerned about, when you bring, we're gonna get in a situation where people bring their dogs out all the time, to go to the bathroom, how long can the dog sit there if the dog is damaging furniture? If you have several dogs, how are you gonna prove which dog damaged the furniture? If you have several dogs and the dogs don't get along, and, who brought in the dog first? How are you gonna figure all that stuff out? It just seems like it's a lot to manage, and we're trying to solve a problem that, in my opinion, doesn't exist.
I think we solve those problems through the rules, and we have those now. Right now, we have fragrance-free environments. People know who people are who are allergic to perfumes and colognes. And we also have rules against intimidation of other employees and working in a friendly environment. And so, yes, you can have that. You can the examples that you give could be the same with union or association rules. Who votes against this association rule? Everybody knows, or will know if a new person comes in that they voted against something that other people in the department may not may agree with, or may not agree with, or a new person comes in and has a allergy against for perfumes or colognes. They know who that person is. But I think we have employees who are respectful of those differences, and I'm not aware of any incidents in my tenure with the city that anyone has been harassed or treated badly because of the policy that the city adopted. So I think the things that you've outlined could be mitigated, and they are mitigated in society every day.
I think when it comes to this, I disagree. I mean, I think that, because people who like dogs really, really like dogs, and there are people that are either allergic or don't like dogs, I think they are absolutely entitled to a safe and allergy-free as much as possible environment. And we're introducing, a level of possible conflict that's unnecessary. So I agree, if there are other things that people are voting on as a department of rules and stuff like that, sure, there's definitely more ability for people to, be upset at other coworkers for stuff. This just adds another layer to something that I just don't think is necessary for a government agency to allow employees to bring in pets. It just seems like a lot of trouble for very little benefit. And 35% is a very strong number of people that don't support. And if you, as I said, like you look at these comments, people have some very, very good concerns on why not wanting it, why they don't want dogs. And I think it puts people in a bad position, whether you can prove retaliation, whether you can prove that a bunch of coworkers go out and don't invite another coworker for lunch with them because they're upset that all of a sudden dogs are not allowed. This stuff happens. It happens in offices all the time.
Yes, it does.
Right,
and
and so right, that is life. But why introduce things to make that more likely, especially because of how people feel about pets, and especially because people have rightfully so can be allergic, etc. So
we introduced fragrance-free policies,
and that's not as hard. I mean, that is not as hard as nobody has the history as far as I know. People haven't been bringing dogs into the office. I mean, dogs are not a necessary thing to have in the office. It's a perk, one might say, for some people.
or on a plane, or in apartment buildings.
I made my
You can
point.
agree to disagree.
Yep, absolutely.
So we're not deliberating, right?
Yes, yes, we are. Would you like to?
So I think when this was first introduced, personally, I didn't see a way to support it. But the fact that we went to people and asked them what they like and what they do not like, the overwhelming majority does like to have dogs at workplace. And so the concerns that are raised through the survey, you said you'll address as part of the rules that you will be creating. But the other thing you said also is that when there are problems, we can bring this back to this committee and have a look at it. So if we can factor that as part of the rule, maybe once every year, bring this back to this committee to say, this is what happened, have a look, do you think we should move forward or not move forward? But at this point, I do think we should give it a try and see how it goes. If it is not working well, we will know very quickly, and then we can bring it back here and vote it up and down again. But I do think we should give it a chance now and see how it goes. The survey really, I mean, is the one that is, for me, convincing me that we should give it a try. I mean, while 30-something, 35% is a huge number, 54 is bigger than 35, right? And so let's give those people also a chance by saying, okay, let's try it. If it doesn't work well, you are the people who wants dogs. So it is also your responsibility to police this, to make sure that, you know, people who are bringing dogs are following the rules. If they don't follow the rules, then all of you who love dogs at workplace will not have dogs at workplace. Now the 35% will be the one to be at work without dogs, and all of you will be at work also without dogs. So I do think it's a good thing to give it a try, and if it doesn't work, then obviously vote it down. So I'm going to support it, and I would encourage that we give it a try.
Do any existing city facilities have a dog-friendly policy right now?
They will.
They will. What other facilities do you intend to have this policy?
They'll be held to the same criteria that is outlined in this policy. And the mayor has already stated that we will make other city facilities dog-friendly. So that APM will establish those rules.
So like the municipal building and...
Yeah, municipal building, any other buildings that we have that are feasible. Now, I expect that this policy will be used rarely. I think the criteria is very strict. And for a person to be able to bring a dog in with the licensing, the training, the shots, and all those, the ability to be able to control a dog at all times. It means that you can't be in and out of the office, you know, working in the field and coming back and leaving your dog and things like that. So I feel that it'll be rarely used, just through my experience and the criteria that's being established.
Actually, I have a question. Can we also include the ability for people to bring in kids as well?
Kids?
Yeah.
They already do.
So people are allowed to bring in kids and they can stay all day long?
Yeah.
If I can just interject, I'm working on the APM. I'm Marcy Paulson, I'm an assistant city attorney. So far what we have in there is that the dogs have to be restrained at all times. So it's not like they're going to be roaming around in the offices. They have to be on leashes at all times or on kennels. And we do have that it is an anonymous, that the department head goes through the department and says, okay, someone's asked to bring in a dog in, and it is an anonymous survey. But I will take your concern into consideration and put in there that has to be done annually, so that all departments go back and revisit it annually. So if something comes up and someone's afraid to bring it to the department head, I think that's a good point. So annually it can be reviewed.
If this gets approved, do we do it more than annually? Or would there, I mean, because, you know, I come in February.
Yeah, I understand. I was thinking that, but I mean, I don't know. I'll have to talk to the mayor's office about that, because realistically, for it to happen on an annual basis or biannual basis, I mean, it's something we'll have to think about what's feasible for the mayor to implement and require department heads and how often they can do it.
I would say quarterly.
Quarterly?
What are we talking about here in terms of?
This committee reviewing?
I would say, or employees in the department, if this committee decides to approve this.
An employee in the department can come to their supervisor at any time and bring a complaint. So
Yeah.
I don't see a real need to specify quarterly, annually, whatever. I mean, a concern of an employee will be addressed as soon as it's brought, and that'll deal with that department. I think with regard to reviewing the overall acts in front of this committee, I think if we sort of remind ourselves to address this after the beginning of the next year, and to kind of take a look at it again and ask Enos and to have the mayor, or to speak on behalf of the mayor for how it's going, and then we can talk about whether or not to rescind it. Or if it's being used at all. I mean, if you put the policy in and it's too restrictive,
Right.
and, you know, and as I say, that might be that might be the concern as well. So I think we just sort of make a mental note for this committee, for the chairs maybe, to say to themselves, okay, the first meeting in 2020, we should look at this again. But I don't think anything specifically needs to go in the APM. But of course, whatever this mayor wants to put in the APM, you can put in the
I agree
APM.
with you.
And we'll just address it that way in terms of that. That would be my suggestion to move this along.
But I do think it should be clearly spelled out that annually it should come back to this committee so that if we don't remember, there's somebody who is accountable for remembering.
Oh,
I mean, that
Would
could
that
go
be-
in your policy, the policy
Right,
that
yeah,
I think is
the
before
policy is-
you,
yeah.
not the city's APM, but you all have a policy before you that we could add that into your policy,
So I
that
think
it comes
so-
for an annual review.
somebody accountable for
Is there a-
remembering this file.
can we make a small amendment to the end of it, say that how would we word that?
Well,
I'll defer to the chair.
I guess, the motion is to approve the policy with the proviso that, well, maybe a review after 6 months.
Let's say a year. I mean,
A year?
like he said, every department head has the right to review this day.
Hmm.
So 1 year to this committee make more sense.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my suggestion. That would be my motion to amend this accordingly.
Now second.
Is that or we just take it as a friendly amendment, or you want to?
That's fine.
You made the,
Yeah, the amendment to the main motion.
Right.
To add
oh, okay, okay.
an annual review of the policy. Should just add that to the,
Where do you want to add that? To the draft policy?
The internet is letting me down, and I don't have it directly in front of me, so I'll have to defer to somebody else to.
I think you could just make it a 7.7,
Yes, that was the-
a new section that just
There
says
you
this
go.
policy shall be reviewed by the committee annually at the first meeting, or however,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm picking up, however y'all want to propose that.
So that we have motion and second?
Of what she said.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. No. Other discussion?
Did it pass?
I guess the amendment passed, yeah. I
Okay, I
think we
just
were-
want to clarify for her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would like to speak to this, and I still can't support this. From my viewpoint, county facilities staff doesn't support this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I don't think administration supports this.
That's correct.
And I know there's been, in the county board office, there's not enough point of support about this. So I just, in good conscience, cannot go ahead with this. And the other thing is, as far as I can tell, the policy still includes the ability of not just employees, but the public to bring dogs, no?
No, just employees. We're gonna make that clear.
Okay,
We
yeah.
talked about making that clear.
Yeah, but it's still on the list here. I mean, to me, it's what we're approving. Create new subsection 819, paren 2, renumbering, and dogs in the city-county building, in addition to service dogs and law enforcement dogs, as those terms are defined in the above section. Dogs are permitted in the city-county building if the following requirements are met. Dogs that are leashed and have been properly licensed and vaccinated as required by sections, there's 3 citations here, may be present in the public areas of the city-county building. The maximum length of the leash shall be 6 feet. That doesn't sound like it's addressing employee dogs, that sounds like it's addressing public dogs to me.
Then I would make a motion that this policy only pertains to employee dogs. I would ask for a second.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no, and that carries unanimously. That's still not going to get my support,
No,
though.
I said that.
Oh, did you, I'm sorry, did you say no?
Yeah, I said
Okay,
no.
I'm sorry. I feel probably should say yes, because I've been asking for that to be deleted for a long time now. And I have concerns about this form here. Granted, you said it may not get used a lot, but what's the guarantee that people are going to, someone's going to follow and make sure that the information on the sheet is accurate?
The department head.
No. Well, okay, that's, that'll be some extra work there. And then as far as the survey goes, this survey, when Lisa Belden sent it to me, she noted that it was sent to all city email users. So it wasn't just sent to employees of the CCB. And so how many people would have received this email?
Probably about 2,000.
Okay. So, and the other thing, of course, it was voluntary. So this isn't a scientific, granted, it was 50% of the people, that 52% of the people that chose to answer this survey said yes. So it's, I think you need to take that with a grain of salt. But the other thing, there were basically just 3 questions, and then starting on page 33 and going to page 29, there's lots of comments. Lots and lots and lots of comments. And I could have gone into deep librarian mode and cataloged them by subject to see where they fell, but there are a lot of negative comments in here too. The only thing that I can support is a trial process. And to me, I think the Madison Municipal Building would be the good first place to start that. See how it works, rather than opening it wide and then having to come back here. I think it would be better just to try it experimentally. I wasn't able to find a single municipality or county that has this type of policy. I found private businesses, but I couldn't find, especially an example of, say, a city of similar size to Madison. So that's another reason why I think it's better to go slow. Have a trial period, see how it works, and if it works well, then expand it from there. So, but just going wide open all at once, I just can't support it. So I will be going to office.
Your comments bring a question that I want to clarify, to be so kind. Actually, I guess this would be for Jeff. Jeff, even with this policy, the county's position is going to be that its employees won't be allowed, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is just the City-County Liaison Committee approving something what the mayor and the department heads within that are going to be able to do with their own space. Is that accurate?
Sounds like.
Also, of course, that means that there will be dogs in the common areas
Yes.
as the dogs come to and fro.
Yeah, that
That
concern,
would be a change for everybody.
that concern to me is minimal. I respect everything you said, Paul, but I think that what they're asking you to do here in their own space with the slight encroachment into the common areas isn't something that the county should step in the way of. So I'll be voting for it.
Other discussion? So are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
And it looks like it passes 5-3, am I correct?
No, 4.
Four.
It must be 4-3.
Or wait,
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 to 2.
yeah, 4-3, I'm sorry, yeah. All right, well, it's done.
It's done.
Which brings us to no presentations, reports to committee, future meeting items and dates. Do you know of anything that might be coming up on the agenda?
I got nothing.
Okay,
Could I ask one question?
sure.
I am on the county board, so I have been parking my bike in the parking garage, but I was given a note by the police that asked me not to park down there. So I'm wondering if we should be encouraging people to bike to work, employees, and they're forced to park outside. I just think there should be some place for employees and board members and city council members to park in the basement. So-
Is there any history of?
I know somebody who rides their bike to work on a regular basis and parks down there.
Well, I was left a message not on my bike not to park.
Did they, was it signed by somebody, or?
It was the police department.
Oh, what's all?
It was the police department?
Mhm. The only rack down there that I see is the one that's over by the police there, where they put their, and that's where I was parking, and that's where they
I was
don't
about to
park.
say, they don't control.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's.
You know, it's like for where they turn in bike, I mean, things if bikes are stolen or whatever, they bring them in there, and that's where they put them.
So you were probably on their rack.
I was on there.
Yeah.
You know, so
Maybe that's something the county could do,
Yeah.
bike rack down there.
can,
Maybe
I'm sorry, this isn't my,
Well, if you want to make a stink, say, that was a pretty
I
loose
apologize,
committee.
okay, I didn't want to step on your toes.
Oh, I'm not
Co-Chair.
toasting you, Steph.
Karen, is there, where, can we park down there or not? Or is there someplace that we
Why
should?
don't I reach out to DOA and see
Yeah.
if there's a space that might be made available,
Okay,
Okay.
a rack.
if that's something we can handle throughout specific board act, or
Yeah,
committee
I'm
act.
fine, I
great.
just would like to know.
No, that's a good idea, absolutely.
Yeah, the person I know, too loosey-goosey here, but the person I know who rides his bike to work just parks it right behind one of his colleagues' cars in his parking spot.
Right.
Oh, so it looks like he's just planning to bike on his lunch hour or
Yeah.
something.
I assume there's not enough room for everybody to park down there.
Yeah.
See, I mean, supervisors can park their car down there, they should be
Right,
able to park
exactly.
down there.
Right.
I'm trying to think if there's enough height to, racks to be hung from the ceiling. One of the things I noticed, I've lived in an apartment building for 40 years, and in my apartment building, you can hang your bike up over your parking space. And so this is an idea, there's something to be thought of, that people could hang their bikes over parking space, or some area that wouldn't damage anything, or something like that.
And if that doesn't work, I know spaces are a premium down there, but we could find one little space to put a
Yeah,
small
I
little
think
bike rack.
it's all open there. I had, there was something that came up in Public Works regarding the resurfacing of the front porch area, and I meant to talk to you about this earlier, Karen. But there are two memorial benches, are you familiar with those? That are placed out on the deck, and one of the members of Public Works talked about putting them in a different place, so I'm wondering who approves that, but if they've already been approved to go out there, I mean, to be there, this committee wouldn't necessarily have to approve moving them to a different location unless there was some specification as to where they'd be placed.
So right now, they're not there because
There,
of
because of the construction, yeah.
So what about, what's going on with the memorial bench?
Well, it's like they're in storage right now, but once that, they'll be put back, and the supervisor in Public Works had a different idea of where to place them, so, but it seems like if they're already out there, that seems like sort of micromanaging as far as where they go. Is that really the purview of this committee? I think this committee would approve their being there.
Right.
And then at that point, if maintenance or administration feels they could be placed someplace else with a suggestion to follow up on. Does that sound reasonable, Jeff?
Yeah, unless the placement of them is very
Yeah,
prescriptive at
if
the
they were
time.
given with the
Yeah.
idea that they need to be in this spot,
Mhm.
then obviously it's, it's a done deal. We don't talk about it anymore.
I'll
So,
see what I can
all right.
find out.
that would be good. So that was the thing that I was hoping to keep off the agenda. Anything else? I wonder, and we do have city elections coming up. I wonder, well, we'll see if we need to meet before the election, and then there may be some changes. Hopefully not. Oh, no wonder he volunteered. Oh, yes.
But I'm fighting it tooth and nail, so I'm not taking it lightly, I'm taking it very seriously.
All right, well, I guess that's, motion to adjourn.
I move adjourned.
Moved by Ragland, seconded by Malta. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, and we are adjourned.